Everybody, it's Chris. Today we are going to pour the final countertop that we have in the camper. Some of you may know that we've been restoring a camper. I shouldn't say restore, it really didn't need repairs, but I have been remodeling it and I've done quite a few countertops in here already. This is my last one to do, and I had promised some people that I would show you how I'm doing it. Feel free to ask me any questions and I'll try to help you as best as I can. And I would really appreciate it if you enjoyed the video to like and subscribe to my channel. So what I'm doing right now is mixing up resin. I use Counterculture DIY resin. This is the artist resin. I use the artist resin for almost everything that I do. It does have UV inhibitors in it. So I honestly do not know how everything is going to work out in the camper. I did one countertop last fall and it did sit through the winter. Still looks great. I'll put a picture of that up as well so you guys can see what that looks like. This little counter here is in the living room area, and it used to house the TV and VCR and all of those lovely things back in the day. But now I'm going to turn it into a coffee bar. So I am just following the instructions on the bottles of resin, and I need to mix it for 3 minutes. I'm actually mixing on top of the counter that we're going to pour, because it doesn't matter if I spill a little bit on there or not, it'll be just fine. What I did to prep the counter before we started was to coat it in Bullseye 123 Primer, which is in a can, and I used a roller on it. I did, as you can see, I kind of used some wood filler to patch some holes just to make sure that everything was pretty level. The reason I put the Bullseye down is so that it would help it to adhere to the resin. The resin would adhere to it. And also, I'm putting down white, and it was kind of a tan color, and I really did not want the tan color to show through my resin. So if I don't get enough colorant in it, that's kind of a fail-safe way of making sure that my resin still looks good when we're done. So I have about 6 cups of epoxy. This one you can see is pretty clear. There's still a few little striations, I think it is, in it, and you want it to be clear. It's okay if there's bubbles in it. Those we have a way to get rid of those, but you want to mix about 3 minutes for it. If you have a bigger amount, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. And I put nitrile gloves on, and I actually did a double set because I knew, well, I know me, I'm very messy, and I knew that I'd probably get pretty messy stirring. So I've got a set of double gloves, so I'm going to take one set off and just set these on my little cookie sheet here. We will use a big torch to pop the bubbles, so I'm going to set that down here. The other thing that I did is I used just regular masking tape, and I taped, there's a little hole here, so I taped that, and I also taped the edges, and I will show you, let's see if I can kind of show you the edges. You can see the edge here where I taped it, and then I also put plastic underneath. So the idea behind this is that we will pour it, we'll let it set for 30 to 45 minutes for it to set up, and then we will pull the tape, and the resin should self-level out and drape over the edges of the counter so that it's all beautiful. And I'm gonna put masking tape down there. I have just some regular plastic solo cups that we will mix all of our colors in. And then I do have a little magical thing with spray paint that we're going to add to this that gives it some really cool texture. And then I also have some ceramic tiles, 4x4, and I think this is a 6x6 that I make coasters and trivets with in case I have extra resin. When I did my kitchen countertops, I did not have enough resin mixed, and I was running to the studio trying to get more resin mixed, and I don't want to have to do that again. So I want to make sure that I have everything ready to go. So I've got one batch here that we're going to mix some colorant in, and I decided this one I wanted to be more colored than white. My kitchen, the kitchen countertops are definitely, there's a lot more white in them, but I really want the colors to pop through on this. And I have 3 colors that we're going to mix up. I have a feeling I'm going to have too much, but like I said, I would much rather have too much than not enough. So we are going to use a sapphire blue. The pigments that I'm using are from this little pigment. I use them in my painting. I use them in anything that I do with resin. They're really beautiful pigments. I'll show you what they look like here. And then we are also going to use some a liquid color too. So the biggest thing that you can do to be successful in this is make sure that you are prepared. Be prepared to have everything ready to go and mixed. Make sure that you have your surface prepped. This is the sapphire. It's really beautiful. It does not take a lot of these pigments to color the resin. So I'm going to start off with probably about this much because I do have almost a full container of resin. And then I'm just going to go ahead and use my stir stick here and mix that in. And my goal is for the resin to coat whatever I'm using to stir it with and not be able to see the stirring stick through it. So all of the powders that I'm using, all of the pigments have metallic in them. So they'll be really beautiful when the sun hits them, and they'll be very sparkly. For those of you that don't know me and are watching me for the first time, I love things that sparkle, which you will see. I'll post some pictures of what the camper looks like too. So here is the blue, and that's not quite enough because you can still kind of see that turquoise behind it. So I'm just going to put another little scoop in there. But I love things that sparkle. So if there's a metallic version I can use of something, you can pretty much guarantee I'm going to use it. Okay, so this is the sapphire blue. So what we're doing is kind of like a dirty cup pour is what this is called. So we are going to mix all of our colors, and then we're going to take those colors and dump them into other cups and mix it all together and then pour it out. Okay, that's much better. Okay, blue is ready to go. And I'm just going to go ahead and set this guy over here so I don't spill it. And then we're going to do some gold. I put just a little bit more blue in there because I want to be sure that it's really deep and vibrant. There we go. All right, and this is the gold. It's called ore. It's a very pretty like yellowy gold, I guess. And you can tell it's one of my favorites because there's not as much in here. So we'll add that in there and we'll stir this guy up. And I don't have as much of the gold, I don't have as much resin in the gold because I really don't want the gold to take over. Sometimes gold can kind of take over in your pores, so I just want to make sure that it's not all gold. Now, I'm kind of like talking as I go, but I really want to make sure this is perfect. I want to make sure that I work quickly with this because the resin can seize if you don't work quick enough. You have about 30 to 40 minutes of working time with it. This one is called King of Pain, so it should be kind of a gray, but it'll have like a blue cast to it. So I thought it would be a nice addition to the sapphire blue. But you have about 30 to 45 minutes before this will seize up. And being in these smaller cups like I'm mixing in now is going to cause it to warm up quicker. So I'm just kind of trying to hurry here and get this all done so that it's not a complete disaster. I have a cookie sheet over there and I'll just pop everything down. See how pretty that is? Okay, so there's that. Just need to mix in our white pigment into this guy. And as I said, this is a liquid that I'm going to put into here. And I feel like it kind of takes quite a bit of white because you do want it to be opaque. You don't want to be able to see through it because this is kind of the base of your color or the base of your pour. So you want to make sure that it's nice and opaque and not translucent. Don't add too much at one time though, because it can also backfire against you. If you put too much of a colorant into into the resin, that can cause it to seize up as well. So it's kind of a tricky thing. I would recommend that maybe you make some coasters before you try to do your resin countertops in your campers, because it does take a little getting used to figure it out. But otherwise, it's a super fun way to redo your camper, and it's pretty cost efficient. And we had thought about putting in new countertops, possibly butcher block, but I kind of like this idea because this way I feel like it's kind of more earth friendly too, because we're recycling rather than just dumping. Okay, I'm going to use just a little bit more of that because, like I said, I really want it to be white. And then I've got some white spray paint over there. I'm going to step outside and I'll spray that down into a cup to make it into a liquid, and that's going to give us some really cool effects in the resin too. These cups are really full, so I'm kind of getting messy here. Okay, now we've got a nice white resin. Like I said, I'm mixing here, but I don't care if it gets on the countertop because this is what we're pouring on. Okay, so I've got all my colors mixed up. I'm gonna pour about 3 cups, I believe. Well, probably 4, because I've got almost 4 cups full of resin. So I'm gonna get 4 cups ready to pour into. And then I'm gonna set this guy down here, and I'm gonna step outside and do the white spray paint real quick into the cup. Okay, we wanna work fast because that white spray paint will probably evaporate very quickly. And I probably should have done it right at the end, but we're gonna see what we get. All right, so I'm gonna start by adding the white to all of my cups. Try and distribute it evenly. And I don't think I did a very good job of that. This one's gonna have a lot less white in it, so we'll use this one last if we need to. It's always easier said than done to get everything even. Okay, so there's that. And then the blue is probably the most prominent color that I want to show. So I'm just gonna dump it from the top. And this is why it's called a dirty pour, because you don't care how you do it. We're not trying to layer anything. We're just trying to get the resin in the cups. And I can tell that the resin's kind of thickening up. So we're gonna try and move just a little bit faster here. I'm gonna add my magical spray paint before it all goes bye-bye, because I kind of lost quite a bit of it, which I'll show you what that looks like. You can already see like the cool stuff that it does. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to do is put some of this gold in, and I like to kind of hold it up high because I feel like it kind of helps it to mix in with the other colors a little bit. So hopefully we'll get this really cool effect. And then the last one that I have is that King of Pain color, which is that grayish blue. And then I'm going to set my cups down onto the floor here, just in case we need anything extra to fill in. But I think we should be good, and I think I've got enough. I think I've got enough mixed up that will be all right this time, unlike the kitchen counters. Okay. So now I'm just going to set these down here on the cardboard I have on the floor, get them out of our way so that we can just pour. And I'm hoping that you guys will be able to see the majority of this. I tried to set the camera up so you had a pretty good angle, and I'm hoping that it works out so you can see very well. I'm going to set this guy down here. And because my resin is getting kind of thick, I'm going to go ahead and take just a stir stick. I'm going to go down and kind of mix it a little bit to get it going. And then let me see if I can get this stuff out of your way so you can see what's going to happen. So what I'm going to do is just start pouring. You want to be kind of careful about how you pour it. And you can see that my white was in the bottom. So you definitely want to try to get all of those colors out. and you kind of want to mix them in. Don't get too crazy about pouring it out. You don't want it to splash up on your walls. I could have put my stir stick down a little bit further in that one, I think. So let's take this and we'll kind of see if we can't get that white up in there. And then I'm going to start here because I've got quite a bit of white. So depending on how you do it, you can get ribbons of color. You can create circles. And honestly, it kind of changes as you heat it and as it reacts with each other too. So I can tell you that it's a good thing I mixed up as much as I did, because I'm a little concerned we might not have quite enough. Hopefully we do though. Okay. This one I'm going to leave right over here. Let's see if we can get this white mixed up in here. And then the other thing too is that it is leveling out, so don't get too worried, because when we heat it, it will start to move around a little bit more. But I just want to make sure that I've got colors, all of the different colors represented. Let's see, let's put some of this white right here, because we've got a lot of the gold and the darker color. So I just taped up this little hole here just to make sure that the resin doesn't run down in there while it's curing. And like I said, we're going to let this sit, and then we'll come back and pull the tape, and then it should just run right down the sides of the counter. All right, and we've got one left. We aren't going to have to make any, won't have to make any coasters today, I don't think. Okay. So I can see all of my colors. I'm just going to continue to, I'm going to pour, I really like this, what it's doing. So I'm going to stay out of there. I want to make sure that this area is fully filled in. And then I'm just going to kind of swirl, because there comes that really cool white. And we'll swirl here. And then I'm just going to come back over here and make sure that this corner is filled in. So I want to make sure that all of my edges are good. On the side, on the back, wherever I need to get some more color, I want to make sure that that's all filled in. I also need some right here along the front. I've got a little bit left in this cup. And then we do have some extra down on the floor that we can add into. So, like I said, this was about 6 cups. I probably could have used about 7, and then I would have felt much better about all of it. I just like to kind of run my stick around the edges a little bit to make sure that nothing is plain and ordinary. I apologize for the lighting. I didn't want lights on because I was hoping you'd get a better view if I didn't have any lights on in here. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my torch and we'll heat this up and see how much it levels out. So as I torch this, you'll see like some other things that will pop up in the resin, but this also helps to pop the air bubbles. Go ahead and fill this in, and then we will pop back on when it's time to pull the tape so you can see what it looks like. Okay, I wanted to show you what this looks like now that I've used some heat on the resin. And because we've got different types of resin and different colorants, so we had the pigments, and then we also had the liquid colorant, you can see that it created some really cool effects. And that's because I added some heat to it. When you add heat to it, it also I think I've got something right there in my resin. Nope, it's just a weird mark. It also will kind of move the resin around so that you can create some cool things, and it will help it to kind of self-level out as well. So I just kind of wanted to show you this, and then if I can get the light just right, I'm hoping, see the sparkle? There she is. See all those sparkles? That's what I wanted. So this is directly across from the door, so she should get some really pretty light on her throughout the day. Okay, so as I said, we're gonna let this sit, and then I'll be back and we'll pull the tape. Okay, so it has sat for about an hour. Because I did heat it up, that made it a little bit softer, so I thought we'd let it sit just a little bit longer to make sure that it's nice and firm before we pull the tape. I had originally told you 30 to 40 minutes, but like I said, we went for an hour. So I'm just going to start over here on this edge. You can see that I don't have quite enough there. And it's probably stuck to my plastic, which is going to cause an issue. So let's see if I can tear this here. You can see that my resin actually pooled and kind of leaked down. So I'm going to start from the other end actually and hope that my tape isn't stuck to everything. So I'm just going to slowly pull it down, and then it should hopefully start to run over. And one thing that I did not mention, in a camper, as you already know, things are not always level like you want them to be. And I probably should have made sure that things were level. And you can see that my resin ran right down the wall, which is exactly what I did not want. So I'll have to clean that up a little bit. But you can see that it's kind of starting to come down a little bit. So it'll start to come down over the edges. And you can also help that along by just taking your finger and kind of running it along the edge. And since I already have some resin over here, I'm just going to peel this back a little bit and see if I can't clean this up a bit by pulling it up here. So the reason the plastic is there is so that it will catch the resin as it comes down over the countertop. And it's probably going to move kind of slow because it has been an hour. Okay, I finally got the resin to start running down the countertop. I had to add a little extra to the edges to get it to flow over. So the last thing that I'll do is run a toothpick along this bottom edge. And I'm just going to remove the drips. So you usually have to do this a couple of times, but you can see it's pretty clean right now. And then I'll come back and check it one more time. I will get everything cleaned up. You can see that things have dripped over onto the plastic. I have a little bit on the floor in the cabinet. It is much easier to clean this up while it is wet. So I would recommend that you clean it up while it's still wet. And I guess my biggest tip for you, well, a couple of big tips. Number one, try to make sure that your surface is as level as you can get it. We all know that campers are not straight in any sense of the word. So if you can move the jacks to make your surface a little bit more level, it will go a lot easier for you. I would have pulled the tape probably at 40 minutes rather than an hour, and it would have flowed a lot better. I also would have had a little bit more along the edges. I think my edges were a little bit too dry for it to really come over the edge and cover nicely. But as I said, it's a really fun project, and I would also mix a little bit more resin than what you think you might need. You can always pour coasters with the leftovers. Super easy. You just pour it on the 4x4 tile and make sure the edges are done. Set it up on a surface so that it can drip off. Run your toothpick around the edges of the coaster, and voila. Put some cork on the back of it and you've got a great set of coasters that match your camper. So I will take some close-ups of this for you guys to put at the end. As I said before, please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.